What's going on, guys? Jumping on here early because Chuck and I just decided to take some pre-workout, so I don't think I can make it another 30 minutes, and I do what I want. It's part of the beauty of New Nation, right? Do what you want when you want. First up, so we only had one person, well, two people, because Molly tied me in the bike challenge, and Christina took me down. Yes, that is awesome. It actually 0.65 miles is a little bit more than 1,000 meters. So you really crushed it. So Christina, you won the bike challenge. And for the rest of you guys, I totally thought I was giving you like a gimme challenge, right? For all of you who aren't CrossFitters. I thought I was doing something outside the box, but you know what? If CrossFitters just want to be a part of it, then I guess that's cool. So Christina, I'll get with you on a win for this week. But we've got some great questions for today, and I just want to go ahead and jump right into those because I'm pretty pumped about them. So Mike D was asking about macros for kids. I think it's freaking cool that Olivia's doing all that, by the way, if she's a little MMA monster. But generically wrapping up a couple things for parents and for kids to think about is that macros are a form of a caloric intake, right? So no matter what, your kids prioritizing or you helping your kids prioritize eating balanced is going to be huge for them. So we know, kids like chicken tenders and French fries and goldfish and things that are pretty carb heavy, which also leads to their energy levels. But a couple things. So one, their caloric intake needs to be appropriate for their age, right? So I don't want to get into setting macros for kids, but I want you to consider that there's kind of this big movement that kids eat when they're hungry. So like pushing them to finish their plate and doing things like that might actually lead them to our favorite American diet where we overeat. So let them eat what they want to eat when they want to eat, and then just look at trying to make it balanced. So offer them protein, carbs, and fats in different forms. So how those are kind of spread throughout, don't be as picky about that as you could make sure that your kids have good, healthy carbs before they go do CrossFit like Mike D's talking about, or if your kids are into gymnastics or dirt biking or whatever they're into, you know that carbs are what fuels us, which gives us energy. So if they want to have energy going into something, it's probably a better time to do that. Also think about they'll have more energy at practice to actually do it, and then maybe you back off the carbs when they get home so that they don't get as jacked up and kind of calm down. But, carbs for kids not only look at, things that they want to eat. They want to eat goldfish and cookies and things like that, but maybe you can start to get them to look at fruits and vegetables as a snack. I mean, a huge win for a kid is just looking for apple slices or grapes or something of the source and looking at those as good carb intakes and not carbs and fats and overloading them in that sense. Obviously, it's important that your kids get calories in at all, so not really pushing for a certain number, but when they get it, making sure that they're quality and that they are eating something. So I get it, I don't get it, but I've heard that kids are picky and they only want what they want. And so, if they're just only going to eat chicken fingers, then maybe that's what you have to give them. But you as a parent can say, okay, chicken fingers are fried so that they're a little heavier in carbs and fats than a normal chicken tender would be. So, maybe we're going to cut back on this and give some of this just to make sure that your kids are balanced. I mean, guys, think about all the people that are in here. If we had learned to eat in a balanced way from the start, Nude Nation wouldn't be a thing, but there would be a lot less struggle for a lot of us, right? So present your kids with good options. Let them eat what fills them. Don't worry too much about hitting specific numbers, but use some of the things that we learn in here to make sure that they feel their best. Don't load them up on peanut butter and then go ask them to do something that requires explosive energy, because that fat is just going to slow them down. So give it to them before school, so maybe they're not as hungry during that time or something like that. But yeah, great question. Very cool question. I think the biggest wins for parents would be not forcing them to overeat and getting them to eat things that we know are inherently better for them than other things. I think that would be really, really pretty awesome. And then asking about water intake. So nice to have a question from you, Joseph. Very cool. Bobcats are doing good, so I hear. But water intake versus other things. So I guess what I really want you to think about is what's in what you are drinking. So you're talking about tea. Tea is a diuretic, has some other qualities to it, but doesn't have any added sodium or calories with, artificial sugars or real sugars or things like that. So you could account that you are drinking more through something that is zeros, but is that really replacing water? I guess I would take the stance that I want you to add some water into your day. So say you're not a big water drinker, but when you go to a restaurant, you ask for a tea and a water, and you make sure that by the end of it, you've at least drank that 1 cup of water, right? And then tea beyond that, we're just hoping isn't loaded so much with sugar that you had, 200 grams of sugar for no reason. It's also cutting back on sodas, just because sodas inherently aren't something that our body is essential to life. So water is essential to our life, right? It's vital. So again, can other things be a good source of hydration? Yes, there are good reasons for electrolytes and other things, but still getting actual good pure water in your system should be a little bit of a goal for you. So just start small with 1 glass with every meal and then see where you can go from there. Or, again, having something with you that throughout the day, I practice what I preach, that you try to get through. So start there. But there are things that are not as bad, but water is still the best, to wrap that up. And then Amy was talking about how to get back on the wagon when you've fallen off. So I get it. I understand it. And I think, honestly, you need to be very real with where you are along your path and why you're pushing to do something and not doing it. So maybe you've fallen off the wagon because you hit a goal and you got a little bit loose, and then you can't seem to just get yourself to do it again. And you really need to question yourself, do I really want to be on the wagon, or where am I right now? I talk about this all the time with my clients, that you can be 0 to 100, or you can be 80%, but give all of that 80%, right? Do the best that you can in all of that 80% and let that 20% be what it is. If you're constantly hoping to be at 100 and missing the market being at 80, you might be doing worse than if you were to just be realistic about 80. So I think it's important for you to check in with yourself, ask what your goals are right now, and be honest with them. And even, I really do think that there's power in writing things out and saying, this is where I am right now. This is what I'm doing. I go back to this challenge that we just did, that for 30 days, I could dial it in super hard. And since then, I've gone back to being a little bit looser, but I'm still writing down I'm still tracking. I'm still writing down little notes for myself, because I want to see where I came from, if I can increase the calories again and kind of maintain in that area. So no, I'm not being 100 or 100 and plus % like I was for that 30 days, but I'm being a good 90 right now. Is 90 what I need, or can I go to 80? You just need to be realistic about what you're looking for. Then once you find that, figure out how to get there. So if you're trying to get back on the wagon, it might be tracking one thing a day, 1 meal a day, and seeing how that goes. Maybe you have a couple items that are pretty routine, but you want to see how dinner's been lately. Or maybe you need to set small wins for yourself and say, okay, I want to drink 1 gallon of water twice this week, and get yourself to doing it. So look at little ways to get yourself doing something again, and then look at that. I don't know about you guys, but when I love the repeat habits, repeat results. I was thinking about this morning. So even after our 30-day challenge, where we were waking up and doing like 20 minutes to even an hour of extra cardio in the morning, I still am doing it. And that's because the habit that I built of doing it got me good results. And so it's very easy for me to get up and do it again. So if you can find things that give you the reward you're looking for, it's easy to want to keep doing them. The habits that don't seem to pay off are the ones that don't work. And there's not always an immediate, this happened, but when you find something that works, it's a lot easier to start to do it more often and make it part of what you do. So that's part of creating the awareness and being intentional. And when you get a win, reminding yourself what it took to get there, and then figure out how to make that part of your day to day. So, Amy, I hope that helps. We're going and recapping to ask yourself where you are and where you want to be, and then figure out how to start something again to at least give all of what you have. Because if you're trying to do too much and you're coming up short, you're probably doing worse than if you were just realistic about where you are and doing the best that you can in that. Hope that makes sense. Then Molly sent me in a question about limiting beliefs and self-talk actually being helpful. We can tie it to Amy's if we want to, or we don't have to, but limiting beliefs. So when you're like, man, I can't do this. Let's say you're in the middle of a workout and you're like, I just hate this. I personally think that this self-talk and limiting belief on what you can't do is bringing awareness to opportunity, right? So not only are you being very forward with yourself about where you currently are, it now gives you the opportunity to say, then what can I do to get somewhere? Maybe you think that macros are just so overwhelming and you can't do it. Or you could look at it as, I don't really understand macros, but I see that there are coaches available for me to talk to. Or, I can't seem to, we'll go back to my tea, can't seem to get my kids to eat anything. What do I need to do? So now you ask a question, and now you have a little bit of progress where you can say, okay, I'm going to move some of her, processed carbs into fruits and vegetables and get her a better carb balance. By talking to yourself about where you are and being realistic, positive or negative, now you can find rooms for opportunity. You can find, even going back to when I started WAG, I didn't understand how to lose weight. And so somehow it wound me to finding out a macro plan and how to count them and what to do. By looking at my shortfalls, it led me to find opportunities to get through that. So I love that Swanee says sometimes that the obstacle is the way. Maybe by hitting this wall, now we're finding a path around it. By hitting, closing a door, maybe we found a window. By voicing what we can't don't feel like doing, maybe we find an opportunity to do something else or to get a little bit further. So pretty cool question. I hope that makes sense in my explanation, but I think that even if we're talking to ourselves negatively, if we can then take another little perspective and find a way to turn that into an opportunity, we can do something about it. So that's awareness, intent, and mindfulness, and looking for where to go next. And pretty cool question. Loved all of those questions. Thought that was really cool. I appreciate you guys asking, because I just don't want to get on here and just shoot to the wind. Sometimes I want to be a little bit straighter with it. So I'm glad that you guys asked that. And it's been a fun couple of weeks. I hope that you guys are having a lot of fun in here. Ask questions of each other, post some wins. Katie's transformation was freaking killer, and I'm glad that she shared it with you guys. And if anybody else has a story they want to share or a question they want to ask, drop it below, or each week we'll jump on. So I appreciate you guys, and have a good rest of your week. See ya.